Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Whitney Prather, and today we're going to be speaking with Charlotte Tyler, who is a social worker for Absolute Home Health and Hospice. Our subject today is just hope amid crisis, and we're just going to be having a conversation essentially about what's going on, self care tips, the hope that we need. Charlotte is just going to really school us. So I've stopped screen share. Hopefully you can see me. Charlotte, is that right? Can you see
Yep,
me?
I can see you.
All right. So again, welcome and thank you so much for joining us. This
Sure.
webinar is officially brought to you by Absolute Home Health and Hospice. And like I said, we're going to have a conversation about hope amid the COVID-19 crisis. So much is changing rapidly, and I want to process through these emotions and questions with someone whose voice I really trust. I've talked at length with Charlotte Tyler. She passes by my cube on routine, so we get to have these wonderful sidebar conversations. So I just asked her to really weigh in on what's happening and what our minds should be thinking. And so it's my sincerest goal to have this inspire hope during this crucial and uncertain time. Um, Charlotte, hi.
Ah,
I'm gonna read your bio really quick.
all right. Sounds good.
Okay, so since 2005, Charlotte has been helping families with patients find resources they need. In her role with Absolute Home Health and Hospice, she helps them navigate home planning, insurance, medical equipment, financial resources, and she helps with the emotional aspect of home health and hospice. Away from work, Charlotte enjoys time with her husband, Alan, and three little ones. Together, they live in Navarre, Ohio. Charlotte, welcome and thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yes, I'm self-disclosure. I'm in my unfinished basement, so that's why it looks like I'm in like a padded room or a prison cell. I have a napping child upstairs and two other ones awake. So we switched roles, and my husband's upstairs working with the kids, and I'm down here.
Right.
So yeah, so I want to thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. I want to give a special shout out and a huge thank you to all of our frontline staff members at Absolute Home Health and Hospice. That
Yes.
includes our aides, our nurses. Everyone is working so hard, and we really salute them in this time of with everything that's going on. And to our team who is working behind the scenes to support our frontline staff, including our leadership and our administrative teams. We really appreciate you and all of your insights right now during this, kind of new thing. It's nothing we've never gone through before in healthcare.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for shouting them out. I really appreciate that. Kudos to them. They are extraordinary, honestly. So, one of the things that I'm going to ask you several questions, but at first, I just want to start with you. How are you? How has your life changed?
Well, I'm doing well. Of course, these days there's a lot that's challenging, but I'm taking just one day at a time and learning to adjust to the new changes from our normal prior day-to-day lives, and learning what I can accept, accepting what I can change and accepting what I can't change anymore. For me, I'm a full-time mom, so I am at home usually 5 days out of the week with my three young kids. But those other 2 days, I was used to working out in the field as a hospice and home health social worker. And I really enjoyed being able to get out of the house and still contribute to society and helping my patients and families. And that's been a really big change starting the week of March 16th. I wasn't allowed to do that anymore with new regulations that were put in place for nursing facilities and senior housing. Positions such as mine and a few other positions were considered non-essential, so we're not allowed in the buildings to visit anymore, which I totally understand. It's in the best interest for our patients and for the staff members that are still in the buildings that have to be there taking care of our patients and seniors. And it's been a really big change to my normal routine. I've kind of felt like a useless healthcare worker and caregiver, but like my husband told me, You're taking care of us, and he wouldn't want it any other way. I just have to do what I normally did a little bit different. Working from home, I'm still making some calls to my families and, making those connections. But a lot of my job is face-to-face interactions with my patients in the building. So that has been a really big change. But, I'm trying to do my best to minimize the spread and exposure to those that I love.
Awesome. Yeah, you were definitely not a useless healthcare worker. You are very useful. And again, just thank you so much for sharing your time and
No
your
problem.
talents with us. So, just jumping right in, my mind goes to all of the marginalized communities out there, thinking about the
Mhm.
people who are older, impoverished, groceries, meals, medications, just really leaving the house is now an obstacle for them and it puts them at risk. How do you respond to that?
Sure. I would say definitely reach out if those people have family or friends that they're close with or nearby. Reach out to those individuals to try and help access those things that you need, or start doing delivery. There's a lot of grocery stores that are doing online delivery, or you can even call in your uh, groceries, um, medications, Meals on Wheels. I know I called about a week ago just to verify that they're still doing deliveries and taking new referrals. And I called three that I know really well in the Northeast Ohio area: Mobile Meals out of Akron and Meals on Wheels of Stark and Wayne. And they're still all delivering, and they're also still taking referrals. So if you are one of those seniors that are at home and you normally didn't used to take Meals on Wheels, but it's more difficult for you to get out to the grocery store, please call them. A lot of times the money acts, you might be able to get free meals, or the cost of what that meal is for the week might be less than what you would have spent at the grocery store. Also, there's a lot of drugstores that have always done delivery, and some new ones that are doing delivery now. My mom told me last night that CVS is doing deliveries. Davies Drugs out of Canton and North Canton is still maintaining their delivery for medications. There are resources out there. Just don't be afraid to ask for help or reach out to those people. And right now, if you have an elderly neighbor or elderly family, please just try and check in on them, stay connected, see how you can help. Maybe they're not technologically savvy, but you are. So maybe you can order their groceries and have them delivered. Fisher Foods is doing free delivery to people over the age of 60 in Perry Township. And I think even the one up on Fulton. I'm not sure. You'd have to check their website to quote me on that. But that's something I helped my parents walk through, and they ordered it last Wednesday and had their groceries delivered this past Friday. So it only took 3 days for them to get it. But now's the time really for all of us to look out for one another.
Yeah, I really love the all of the love that's happening right now. People, I feel
Hmm.
like, are really stepping up, and I feel like we're going to continue to see this as
Yeah.
we walk throughout this process. And I also have been impressed with a number of organizations who have just made it easy for people. Like in a crisis, you see what you're made of,
You do.
and I'm in awe of the organizations who are just doing what needs to be
Mhm.
done. So it's very cool.
There's a lot of food banks out there too. I didn't mention that are have even more food. That they're increasing people coming that never used to. But I know the
Mhm.
Cleveland Food Bank. There's a big church in North Canton that does a big food drive-in food bank. So if you're really in need, it is out there. You just need to know where to look, or who to ask.
Yes, yes. Okay, so what tips do you have for us to stay connected to our families? Obviously, the biggest thing that has really hit us is social distancing.
Yeah.
So share your tips with us to stay connected.
Sure. I think the fortunate thing that we have in today's world is that we do have all this amazing technology. We have apps, and we have all these ways to connect. It may not be that physical connection that you were used to, dropping your kids off, getting that little bit of quiet time, and the kids get to hang out with their grandparents, or going to see your loved one at the nursing facility. But you still can get that emotional, spiritual, or even visual connection through working through ways of like Zoom or teleconferences or phone calls or FaceTime. A lot of us are even now working from home with those technology aspects. Um, I know my sister and I helped my mom figure out the waves of Facebook Messenger and being able to communicate with Facebook to do video chats. And that's been a great big thing in our family, because then now my mom, even she was so used to seeing my kids 2 to 3 times a week. She watched them for me 2 days a week when I worked. But they were used to getting in the car and driving to Pennsylvania once a month to go see my nephews and niece in PA, and they can't right now. So still being able to, see them on the video is helpful. Our families and patients in local nursing facilities are also trying to really keep that connection, and even my coworkers, those patients, by helping with FaceTime calls and telephone calls. Where families are even coming to the windows if outside a patient's room and visiting through the windows, just so that they can call on those loved ones. Phone calls and letters and just words of encouragement can really make all the difference. And I think if we just keep trying and try to stay connected, it'll help everyone. It might not be that physical touch, but you can still get that sense of having something to share, or even talking with someone, that will really help.
Yeah, if you want to build community, you definitely still can. And I think for those people who may not be comfortable with technology, it's just a
Yes.
great idea to press into it and
Mhm.
to just really, instead of having this adverse effect, to just really lean into it
Yeah.
and do it. And so my mom and my grandma still we use Facebook Messenger as well, and that has been such a special treat. My daughter definitely has discovered that in Facebook Messenger, you can like change your face.
Uh-huh.
You can have bunny ears or a hat on or goggles or silly faces.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of giggles happening.
Oh, good. Being
And not just from my daughter, from my mom and my grandma too. They get a real kick out of it as well. So it can be
good.
fun. It can be fun. So, what do you say to people who have loved ones in a home health setting or a hospice setting, and their visits are being severely limited or either denied right now?
Yeah. It's so difficult right now. I think I've said this phrase so many times over the last few weeks, to my family, friends, and even to myself, is this too shall pass. We're just really going through a really hard time right now. There are a lot of unanswered questions right now, especially, how long are these restrictions on visits going to take place? How long am I going to not be able to go into work? How long are these spouses and brothers and sisters and moms and whoever, kids, gonna not be able to go see their loved ones that are in facilities? And we just don't really know right now, and I think that's the hard thing for everyone. But I do know that facilities are really working with families to keep these connections. um, they're trying to keep everyone as safe and healthy as possible, and we really, it's hard to say, you got to stay at home, but we do, to make sure that the workers are healthy and that your grandma and grandpa are still healthy. Distance does make the heart grow fonder. This is the first time for my generation in experiencing this, but it's not really for our older generations. They've had it in a different version. They were separated by wars. They had World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam. We're just really fortunate during this time that we have all this technology that will help lessen some of the struggles and keep us connected to one another, versus the old-fashioned snail mail, where they were overseas and it took months sometimes to get a letter or correspondence from somebody. So it is really hard and difficult, but just try to accept what we have to go through right now. This is like the new norm right now, and it's just something that is going to be hard for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for highlighting the fact that our grandparents have while they haven't faced anything like this, they
Mm,
have gone through tough times. And so if we still have our grandparents around, or if we've got a history book around, we can see what previous generations did to get through tough times. And I think that's the wisdom of it all. Tough times, they do happen. And like I said, we haven't seen it through like this before, but
yeah,
it's not completely new.
true. Yeah.
So, when we consider the long term health care industry, there are a ton of residents who already deal with loneliness. Just being in the setting, they may feel more normal than they normally did when they were at home. But in this crisis, it's definitely been enhanced. What are you saying to them or to facilities to help try to mitigate some of the loneliness that people are facing?
Sure. I think one thing I would really try and focus on with families and the patients is to be patient during this time. Still be kind and pray for our healthcare workers and frontline staff that are out there and doing taking care of our loved ones every day in our facilities, hospitals, and at home. They're risking their own health going into these settings to care for our loved ones, and then they might still be coming home to their loved ones.
Hmm.
So they have a lot of stressors going on as well, and they are making those connections to our loved ones outside those doors and windows for us. They are the ones that are bringing them to us through FaceTime calls and telephone calls to try and alleviate some of that loneliness, because a lot of our patients are in their rooms right now. They're not going to the dining halls anymore. They can't do their bingo groups, close together. There are some facilities that are learning to keep the social distancing and still keep those activities. They're having bingo in the hallways, so the patients are the 6 feet away from each other in their doorways and playing bingo that way to keep the social distancing. Everyone's just learning. It's something new for everyone. If you're worried about your loved one and you feel that they're lonely, don't be afraid to reach out to the facilities and talk to the activities director or social service coordinators to see if there's a way that they can help lessen or reduce those feelings. Sometimes, it might even be just us feeling more lonely versus the patient, because of a lot of our patients have really strong friend and family connections with those that care for them. That housekeeper and the maintenance man that are in their rooms cleaning or doing things, they know them on the first team name basis. They talk to them like their family. So they're still getting that socialization. It might just be through a mask now, because, that's the new norm right now. Um, there are things that can help, with some of the loneliness, or maybe just to help with those emotional aspects. Music and faith often have a great way of calming our souls, and encouraging staff or even families when you're calling and talking to your loved ones to play music, or have music in the background that can kind of put them in a better mood. For instance, one of our chaplains through the hospice division is doing remote Bible study groups, to try and keep that sense of normalcy for the patients, because she would go into the facilities and do Bible study. So they were used to seeing her and hearing her voice. And especially in this time of need where a lot of people are turning towards their faith and prayer, to have that available is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing to take away from all of this is that everyone is experiencing a change in their normal routine, and we all have to be patient and kind with one another. Kindness always weighs out over hate, so we just really need to be kind to one another. We're all dealing with these stressors from the situation, and I choose kindness and understanding to try and navigate these uncharted waters.
Yes, Charlotte. Don't be up here preaching. This is so good.
Amen. No.
This is so good. I
Yeah.
think you said a mouthful. Just being led by empathy. Not everyone's situation is identical to yours, and our stresses aren't the same, but it's still stress on us. So thank you for just illuminating that. What are
Sure.
some of your self-care, what are some of your self-care tips?
Sure. I think, although a lot of us, our normal routine has kind of been blown out of the water, to try and somewhat keep a little bit of a normal routine will help you. So if you're working from home right now, like I am and my husband, I only worked from home 2 days a week. So I was used to, my Thursday through Monday schedule was mom mode, hair up, sweats, maybe I showered, who knows, but I always had on Tuesday, Wednesday was my work days. So I was up at a certain time, dressed, kids out the door to the sitter, in my work uniform or my dress clothes, hair, makeup, the whole gamut. So if you're used to that normal routine, try and keep a little bit of that routine.
Mhm.
I've read in a couple articles and even seen on television that getting up and getting that shower, if you took a shower every morning, doing your hair, doing your face, getting that makeup on, or maybe wearing your work clothes from the top up and still just keeping the comfies if you want. Yeah, can help you with the mindset of work. And also, minus that commute and everything else, it can still just get you into that normal routine. Setting up a designated area. So like right now I'm in my husband's makeshift office because he has all his work stuff down here. So this way, when he's down here, he's focused on his work. And when he's upstairs and in our normal living area, it's fun time, playing with the kids, watching movies, eating as a family. So if you don't have the luxury of having, a designated area, maybe packing that stuff away or covering it up so that you're not drawn back into your work when you're trying to focus on family time. Because that can really help, with that mindset. And make a schedule that, especially right now, because sometimes if you're working and maybe you're working from home and you have kids that are now home because after school and schools are out and daycares are all closed. So, having that schedule can help because you're a teacher, you're chef, you're cook, you're the housekeeper, you're kind of doing it all. But you really need to also make time for yourself because you don't want to get overstressed and overburdened. So telling your spouse or your significant other or just yourself, I need to take 10 minutes or 20 minutes to myself to read a chapter in a book, to go binge watch a show on Netflix, or to go for a walk, meditate, yoga, pray, whatever you need to do to kind of get your mindset relaxed. Because if you're not taking care of you, you're not going to be able to take care of those others. So you really need to just make sure you're taking care of yourself before you kind of crack like an egg.
Yes. Kind of graphic. No, I love it. I love what you said about, making your office, making
Uh-huh.
if you're afforded that opportunity.
Yeah.
And it comes back down to just really being present wherever you are. If you've got your parent hat on, wear that. If you've got your spouse hat on, wear that. If you're working, be in that moment and be present. And I will
Yeah.
say that, you know, something that you shared with me, that I feel like kind of goes under this category is, being present with your children.
Mhm.
Rain and I did make those, what do you call them? That dough,
Oh,
that Play Doh,
the salt dough.
the salt dough, where it's just a very simple recipe of a cup of flour, a
Uh-huh.
half cup of salt, a half cup of water, and you
Mhm.
mix it all together. And she enjoyed it. And that's not something that I would do during the week with her on a
Yeah.
normal week. It's not necessarily in our routine. But I'm realizing that there are some types of there's stressors on her as
Yeah.
well. And so I just want to bring in some joy
Mhm.
and just have a fun activity. And so it was so fun. She did ask me, I know I told you, like, so basically what you do is you make this dough using those three parts, and then
Yeah.
you can play with it like Play-Doh,
Mhm.
or and you can put it in the oven. And you told me it was going to go in the oven for 2 hours at 250. I'm like, Rain will never wait that long. But she did. I like portioned out enough. Yes, I portioned out enough dough for her to keep playing with. And we got all
Right.
of her little kitchen tools and all of that. And then we put some in and we ended up painting it. I wish I had like a little illustration to show right now, but it was a great activity. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, my kids love doing it. We yeah, had they picked out what cookie cutters they wanted, and we had eggs and bunnies and carrots, and then they painted it and we hung them on like this little thing I have on my table, and they every time they see the little orange, they're like, we made these. And then of course my daughter Genevieve is like, now mommy, at Halloween we can make Halloween ones, and at Christmas we can make Christmas ornaments for the tree. And I'm like, sure baby, we can do that. So I think
Absolutely.
we found a new little thing that we're going to be doing. But they had so much fun. Although my youngest tried to eat them because he thought they were cookies. So
What a rude
I
awakening
had,
he had.
I know. So the next day, yesterday, I made real cookies, cut out cookie recipe, and made cookies. So now we have Easter cookies that they can eat, and the other ones are to look with our eyes, not taste with our mouth.
Yes. Look at you, mom. All right. Well, yeah, thank you again for that tip. It was awesome. So, all right, we talked about self-care. What are the pillars of self-care? I know food, exercise, and sleep are amongst that. So, talk to me about if you're really trying to build a routine of self-care, what are your pillars?
Well, I think the biggest thing, if you are home now versus someone who might still be out, like frontline workers working, if you are at home trying to stick to your normal eating schedule, I feel like my kids are nonstop in the kitchen. They're always at the pantry or in the kitchen asking for something. So during times of stress, people tend to eat too much by snacking or overeating, or we don't eat at all. So you really want to make sure that you're feeding your bodies the nutrients that it needs to keep you going, especially during this time when we have so much on our plate to do. I still try to keep, and you're gonna, I know, think I'm crazy, my normal feeding schedule with the kids, and their breakfast 7:30 to 8, lunch at 11:30 to 12, and they're asking for dinner by 4:35. They're like patients at the nursing facilities, these kids, and then they want snacks all in between that time too. But trying to keep that routine with them, even though I'm still working from home and my husband's working from home, kind of keeps that sense of normalcy for them. And I'm really keeping an eye on the snacks because you can't get to the grocery store, during this week, especially, they don't want us being out and shopping. So, trying to portion and limit my pantry depletion. But also try and for your exercise and for your body. So we're talking about the food, but you also need to do some exercise for yourself. So maybe it's going outside and walking, maybe it's meditating or doing some yoga, but taking that time for yourself to kind of let go of everything else that's going on. So maybe when you were at work, you worked a 9 to 5 job and you always walked at your lunchtime. You had a half-hour lunch, you ate, and then you would walk a couple laps around the building. Maybe still try and get outside to do that walking, or if you have a treadmill in your house, to try and keep that little bit of normalcy for you. And sleep is a really big one. Being well rested and will help you keep your day-to-day life going. So if you're overtired, it's going to be very difficult for you to do what you need to do, especially now with our growing list of things that we have to get done in the day. Sometimes it's our moms. Our moms and dads are out there, working a full-time job from home, and they're also playing teacher at the same time. And I think shout out to our teachers, because a
Oh,
lot of these moms and dads are realizing, wow, this is what these teachers were dealing with and doing. And thank goodness we have our teachers out there, and our kids are really looking forward to getting back to school. And I think the parents are too.
yes,
Um,
yes.
but just remember, it's okay to ask for help. If you need time to yourself, it's okay to ask for that quiet time to yourself. I did it last night. I got the kids ready for bed. It was a half hour before their bedtime, and I told my husband, I need you to watch them, and I locked my bedroom door and I took a hot, relaxing shower all by myself without little eyes at the shower window. Mommy, what you doing in there? I
Mind your
just
business.
needed a half hour to myself without feeling I was like an animal at the zoo on an exhibit. Just needed it. So it's okay. It's okay to say you need time to yourself. But if you really just try and focus on those three things, the food, the sleep, and the exercise will still keep you, because there's so many other things out there that are going to like mess with your, give you that stress because you're so worried, and it's sometimes hard to shut off the brain. So if you're focusing yourself on something else, it can sometimes make you forget about that.
Absolutely. I mean, and we're talking about the pillars of self-care. These are the basics: food, exercise, sleep. Tend to the basics, guys. Like,
Mhm.
just try to manage the essentials as much as you possibly can, and that could lead, and it will lead, to positivity and emotional well-being. So
Mhm.
yeah, I
Definitely.
really appreciate you bringing those to light.
Sure.
What do you say to someone who feels like they're in a perpetual Groundhog's Day,
You are
over and over
alone. You
and
are
over?
not alone. Yeah, you're not alone. I've been saying that several times. It's actually been on television a couple times too. I've seen it
No way.
since we've been home.
They know what
Um,
they're doing with that TV programming.
and all the memes on Facebook with the guy, I forget his name all of a sudden, but yeah.
Bill
Um,
Murray.
yes, that is it. There you go. Try do something, I know I stressed and talked about how you want to keep that routine, but like you did the other day, try something a little bit different, a little new, to change up that routine and maybe that feeling that you're in the perpetual Groundhog Day. So maybe it's at your lunchtime doing an activity with the kids, or maybe it's, you never used to eat lunch with your kids because you were at work. So maybe it's having it be a fun thing and involving the kids with your lunchtime. Go for a walk in the neighborhood. Of course, maintain that social distancing, but do new activities with your kids that you haven't done before. There's a lot of things out there that moms are putting on social media.
What about someone who doesn't have kids?
Sure. So someone that doesn't have kids, look at your list of honey-do lists or things that you've always wanted to do around the house that maybe you just kept putting off because it was always nice outside, or you were going on vacation, or you worked Monday through Friday and you just could never do that. So working on those projects, my parents and my sister, she has older kids, so she can do this, but they've been working on a lot of projects around the house. I think my mom's cleaned out her closet twice, and now she's working through the other closets in the house and realizing we still had some stuff hidden there. And now there's piles of, when we're off of quarantine or
Pick it
staying
up.
home, yeah, come pick it up, or it's going to the dumpster or donation pile. So everyone has that list of things that they could be doing around the house. And it's that time to kind of take advantage of that. There's also a lot of organizations out there that are looking for help and volunteers. I know there's the stay-at-home order, so there might be some new changes with some of the volunteer programs, but call them. Maybe they're just looking for some money donations. There's always ways out there that you can help, or maybe it's you have some elderly people on your street. We are in spring. It's spring cleanup, yard work. All my neighbors were out this past weekend in the yard.
It was
So maybe,
beautiful this weekend.
yeah, maybe you just help out your fellow man and your neighbor and you clean out their flower beds and mow their grass for them. There's a lot of kids at home on that might want to make some money doing some yard work. So just, help out, and, don't be afraid to accept that help.
Yeah, and there's some clerical work too that can be done at home. I know
Yeah.
that some people want people to type things for them, so that's an option too. I mean, we're talking about doing things that are unconventional. I
Hmm.
mean, dude, creativity. I mean, what's that comment? Something is the necessity of the mother of invention. I don't know. I need my husband to reference that. I don't know why I'm trying to think of odd quotes right now, but invention is the mother of necessity. Is that right?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Close to it. Don't
Yeah.
at me if I'm wrong. Okay,
Okay.
so I love this idea of just really I've heard this, to focus
Mhm.
on um what we can. I'm getting feedback. Are you?
A little bit. That's okay.
Okay. I hope it's not my fault. Um Basically, to focus on what we can control. And it's really ironic right now because so much is out of our control. According to you, what is in our control right now?
Our attitudes. Um, I've probably said this once or twice to my daughter because she's 4 and kind of almost 5, so she kind of gets it. But I told her, you got to get that attitude a little more positive. And then she rolls her eyes at me, which, yeah, she's already a teenager. But I really do believe that having that positive attitude can make your body feel better, your thoughts feel better, and just put you in an overall better mood. So when we're dwelling on that negative or the bad or everything that's going on in the world right now, if we try to think about something in a more positive attitude or happy attitude or light or funny, it will just kind of, relieve some of those stressors. Um, you know, Set a schedule that's the best that is the best that you can do for work versus your work week versus your weekend. If you're still working, take a break from that news and social media. I mean, a lot of it is just COVID-19 all in our face. So
Yes.
sometimes you just need a little bit of a break. Maybe it's watching a funny movie or going out for a walk, but there's so much out of our control, but there are things that we can do just to make it a little bit better for us. You're not the only person out there that's having these feelings, and the way you're feeling, it's okay to be scared, sad, upset. You're allowed to have those feelings, but it's still okay to smile and laugh and look for the joys in life and find things that are funny. And don't be afraid to be laughing during this time, because sometimes I think laughter will just make us feel that much better. And
Yes.
be thankful for being here and being alive, and just being able to help your neighbors and your family and slow the spread of this. Do what the professionals are telling us to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that, because I have felt guilty
Yeah.
by, being jovial.
Mhm.
And, it's a crisis out here. What are you doing laughing? So thank you so much for, just illuminating that part of it, because there is still joy to be had. There's still, things that we can do that bring our life hope and joy. So that's really good. All right, we're gonna finish this out. I have one more question for you. What are
Sure.
some of the silver linings that you have uncovered?
I would say the biggest thing, and I'm in our governor's been stressing this, and a lot of our healthcare professionals on the news media, but we are all in this together.
Mhm.
Folks, we're all here. We're all going through this, but not everyone may be having the same experience that you're having. But that doesn't lessen your feelings or your stressors or your emotions. Our frontline staff is going through a different experience than our stay-at-home working families, or even our retired parents or grandparents that are at home. It's a disruption to everybody, but that doesn't lessen anyone's experience. We never know we don't really know when we're gonna return to that norm, or if when we do return, if that norm is going to be the way it was. But we do know, as Americans and as just people, that we can adjust and we can adapt. If you're married, you've adjusted to being married. You've adjusted to having kids. When you don't work anymore, you adjust to being retired, and then you're a grandparent. Our life is constantly adjusting. So it's just being supportive of one another, telling everybody that you love them,
Mm.
and giving them those virtual hugs and words of encouragement, and telling them, it'll be okay, but just that we're all here together for each other.
I love it. I love it so much. And just being led with gratitude, I've really tried to have a practice of gratitude.
Yeah.
And I think that goes along so much with what you're saying about, just looking at some of the, trying to uncover some of the good things in so much
Hmm.
bad. So, all right. Well, I am sad to say that it is time for us to go. It's been so good to talk to you. It's been so good to talk to someone other than my family.
Ditto.
I don't want this moment to end, but I do want to say thank you so much for the insights that you've shared. Thank you for your time today. Please thank your husband and your children for me.
Yeah, well, thank you.
This conversation was really helpful to me, and I know that anyone tuning in, it would be helpful to them. And just, I hope they found some hope in this.
Yeah, me as well. And thank you for having me and thinking of me and inviting me to, and the opportunity of doing this. It makes me feel a little bit more as that unessential healthcare worker that I'm helping.
You are very essential, okay? Know that.
Thank
And again, I just want to shout out to all of our frontline staff
you.
people who are just really in the trenches, and they're being called upon to act. I just really appreciate them and thank them for their service and for what they do for us each and every day. We think about you guys and we pray for you, and we just pray God's blessing upon you. Again, this video is brought to you by Absolute Home Health and Hospice. If you think it may be the time to have a conversation with your loved one about home health, palliative care, or hospice services, we definitely can help. We would love to be there for you during that time. We have offices in Canton, Cleveland, Caldwell, and Pickerington. You can learn more about us at abshealth.com today. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. We wish you well, safety, health, and peace. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Charlotte.
You're welcome. See you later.
Yeah.